Sorry for that slight delay. As the chat rightfully points out, it is frequently tricky to connect multiple parties from around the world. Ole, hello, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I feel for you in situations like this because I get all sweaty when the tech stuff doesn't work, but here you are in charge, thank God. But,
and we're joined
anyway,
by Cody, of course. Cody, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, it's great to be with you guys.
Likewise. How are you doing in all of these fires and stuff?
We're hanging in there. Last week it was high particulate count, ozone, carbon monoxide. The California fires, the jet stream pulled all their smoke here into Colorado, and we had our own major fires, all-time record, all-time biggest fires ever in the state history. And we had to wear masks outside. So a lot of people got sick, but the smoke's cleared out, and some of the fires are being contained now. I had one about 10 miles from my house. We had to do pre-evacuation. So that's all cleared up, and we're doing better now.
Good to hear.
Really happy to hear that. We had a big fire here very close to where I live as well, just a few days ago. But that also, they were very fast to get it under control, thank God. It's really, when it's this dry and then with heavy winds, it gets scary.
I'll tell you, the forest in Colorado.
So very fast. Some people got out of here with just the clothes on their backs. Wow. They had to evacuate livestock, horses, and cattle, and so forth. And but everyone's doing a little better now. It's just a real trying experience.
Yeah, glad to hear you're all right. It's starting to look a bit like Portland in Colorado. Everything's on fire.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a really interesting week, I would say. And I think I love the way mainstream media is treating things that is going on at the moment. We've had a demonstration in Berlin a while ago. There was officially about 18,000, 20,000 people there, according to mainstream media. But the police, who was on location, counted it to 1.3 million people in Berlin. And that was then followed by, I think it was the day before yesterday, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. came to Berlin as well and did a historical speech. I mean, it was his uncle, JFK, that in August of 63, did this very famous speech, Ich bin ein Berliner. I'm a Berlin citizen or whatever you want to call it. And his father, Robert Kennedy, was also in Berlin in 62. So for him to return now, and they were expected more than 1 million people, it's very hard to know the real numbers of these people that was there. And then you look at mainstream media, and there's nothing. They don't even mention that he's there, even though it should be headlines all over the world. Not a mentioning of it. And then you got David Icke at Trafalgar Square, where there was I don't know how many thousands, and that not a single word about that either. But in mainstream media, they say there were demonstrations of 200 people in Paris, not 200,000, 200. I mean,
look at that crowd, Ole. That's like
I know
bigger than a Bruce Springsteen concert.
I know. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And we got my wonderful friend Beth with us.
Is she on the line?
She is indeed.
Great.
I don't know how you managed to connect. We really tried to a lot. Anyway.
Oh man, I got one computer down, but luckily have a second one. Thank you so much for hosting me.
No problem. We're glad to have you, and we can never discount the ingenuity of the truly dedicated. So thank you for getting through that technical problem without any of my help. Wonderfully done, Beth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. There's a willow, there's a way, is what my young son used to say. Bend like the willows and you can find a way.
Absolutely. And so, Beth, I think a large portion of our audience might not be familiar with you. Can you give us a little background and introduce yourself to people who are perhaps seeing you for the first time?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, South Central Canada, in the communist state of Canada, I should say. And I am a business archetype and purpose coach. So I survived stage 4 lymphoma 20 years ago It brought me to the brink of death a few times and showed me the real purpose of my life and set me on a lifelong mission to help others uncover what it is they're supposed to be doing here so they can be part of the movement that is about freedom, truth, and a better life for all of the humans on it.
The reason why I invited Beth is, for one thing, she's a wonderful friend. She has helped me a lot, but also she is super skilled, especially in areas where it comes to archetypes. And I think we are at very interesting times when we're up against people that we don't understand. We don't grasp what they're up to or how they think or behave. And so this is why I invited Beth, to get a better understanding of individuals like Gates or Fauci or whatever, these type of individuals that are just there they're on a mission to what it seems to be destroy humanity. So this is why I thought it could be really interesting to get Beth's input, also how to deal with them and how to transcend whatever they're trying to push on us.
Yeah, and people can visit BethMartens.com, BethMartens.com to learn more about Beth. And she's also going to have a simulcast of our sponsor exclusive show that's coming up in just about 15 minutes on her Patreon channel, which is patreon.com/Beth Martens. Of course, the simulcast is always available on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You know, Beth, we created this sort of network a while ago. Ole was actually the very first, or maybe the second, show to appear on this sponsor-exclusive network, and we did it in part to get around the censorship on YouTube, the social engineers that are constantly coming at us. You know, YouTube and so many other social media platforms have recently modified their terms of service so that literally they tell you this: if you spread medical information that questions the World Health Organization, that is grounds for your video to be removed, and 3 removals can result in the termination of your YouTube channel. How do you feel about that? Not even being able to question the World Health Organization.
Well, it's fascinating because you see all kinds of really awful stuff. Like, unfortunately, I can't give any details, but there's been some severe hate coming down the channels through YouTube. I got a strike the other day for showing a classic photo of truth coming out of the well, but she's nude, so I got a strike on that. But people are allowed to spew hate and pornography and all kinds of things. So that's really fascinating. But I think at the end of the day, what I hope for is that we do have a free voice. And, you know, if these channels are not accepting us, then I love what you're doing. You're just simply going through other channels. And, you know, that's like, you know, we're like water. We have to go around. You know, do I agree with it? Am I against it? I've received a lot of grace from those platforms at the same time. So I am grateful for them to be able to use the enemy's power against the enemy. It's fascinating what you said, Ole. We're actually dealing with one archetype on the dark and the light. It's the king on both sides. So I can't wait to share more about that with the Patreons when we get to it.
Absolutely. That'll be quite interesting. So your YouTube channel is Beth Martens as well. People can go to that. It's interesting that you got a strike for showing that image. They've made the rules in such a way that they can basically find something to strike you for no matter what. They basically just decide who they want to remove, and they can apply one of these vague and draconian rules. We were just talking with Cody before you joined about the intense fires that are raging in Colorado. Frankly, whether they're literally flames or just social and political fires, it seems like we're in a moment around the world. Ole was telling us about Robert Kennedy Jr.'s speech in Berlin. It seems like there are pockets in Europe that are waking up and fighting back against this mask wearing and lockdowns and the closure of businesses. It's really upsetting.
I even spoke to police yesterday. I had to call them for something, and I just said, by the way, what do you think of what's going on around here? And they actually said it's completely overblown, and they didn't agree with it. They weren't willing to talk about, is a virus this and that and all of that. But they know already. And I'm just very politely saying, you guys are going to be the first to decide whether to go along with the tyranny or not. And they're like, yeah, we know. So that was really encouraging. I talked to a lot of people out in the community, and there's more awake than it appears to be. They're just not brave enough to speak like you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a long-standing tradition that Ole knows all too well. The people that stick their heads up to speak out against tyranny often get their heads chopped off, and people who observe that are reluctant to do so. It's very interesting, Beth, that you're there in Winnipeg, Canada. We've spoken quite a number of times about this article from the CBC that first appeared in July of 2019, over a year ago. I wonder how many people there in Winnipeg realize it's the home of Canada's only level 4 microbiology lab, and that this doctor was escorted out of there by the RCMP in 2019. We haven't heard really anything more about her, but she traveled to Wuhan. She was dealing with Ebola, coronaviruses. Have you heard anything about this doctor?
Exactly what you said. So nothing more than that. There's nothing, no more local news. I also don't tune much in with our local stations, especially the CBC, just because it's so laced with propaganda, and it just makes me mad. So, but I think personally that was just part of all of the mystery. They were trying to track the source of this and that. And yes, we've got the virology lab here. Interestingly, we tried to work for them many years ago when I was back in my corporate life, but I don't know. I just think it's a bunch of poppycock.
Mm-hmm. I tend to agree. Ole, what are your thoughts on the Canadian Broadcasting Company?
I don't know so much about it, but that story in particular, I feel is a diversion, a smokescreen. When they started being when we started looking at them more closely, they were throwing out these red herrings in all different directions. Look over here, look over there, look over there. That's, I would say, I want to ask Cody about that, but I mean, the way I see it, Operation Confusion, that is what they try to do, point in all different directions so that we would start arguing and they would get more off the hook here. But Cody is I want to introduce you as well, Beth. Cody, meet Beth. It's
Hi, Beth.
Hello,
Cody. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yep.
So confusion, Cody, in the operations you were part of, how big a part is confusion and diversion in the type of operation you used to be involved in?
Well, in covert ops, in black ops, the first thing is to minimize blowback, and you do that by keeping things secret. And, we were trained to sanitize every operation we were in. There's no footprints, no fingerprints, no ELINT, which is electronic intelligence, or SIGINT, signal intelligence, FODINT, photographic intelligence, anything. It's all sanitized. And so the operation doesn't exist, and it gives the principals, the people that hire the op out, it gives them plausible deniability. And so with these bioweapons labs, like the one in Winnipeg and all the ones around the world, that's at highest levels of secrecy. In some cases, it's even higher than nuclear stuff. So there's a lot of confusion. If something does leak out and there's, some evidence or a witness, a stray witness that talks or goes to the press, they have a variety of ways, to silence them and so forth. But if something does get out and people begin to investigate, like domestic law enforcement in the country you're in or whatever, then the next stage comes in, and that's the confusion, media control, planning of false stories, planning of conflicting stories. The whole thing is to generate confusion. The idea is to stop the truth. And if any truth seekers or investigators begin to investigate the truth, then you put up false evidence, decoys, fake witnesses, and so forth. And the whole thing is obfuscation and smoke screens and cover and confusion, just like you say. The idea in a psychological operation after a black operation is to psychologically confuse the target population and so that no one will ever find the truth, just like the Kennedy assassination or whatever. There's all these theories and different things, and there's nothing definitive, and that's the whole goal of the dark side and black operations is deception, confusion, doubt, fear, chaos, and that's what we see a lot of in the world today.
Absolutely. And we've only got a few minutes left before we transition over to the sponsor exclusive show, but I'm really glad that Cody just brought up the Kennedy assassination. In many ways, that was a landmark event, not just because of the assassination of an American president, but it really marked the path that we are all on right now, in as much as it happened on television, and it involved a lot of the same type of deceptive tactics that we're seeing at play in a variety of different events today, and it remains a jealously guarded secret. I don't know if you guys on the panel are aware of this, but right now, the Jason Goodman YouTube channel, the main channel that we normally broadcast out to 114,000 viewers on, has been struck by the president of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, the group that gives out the news Emmys, documentary film Emmys. So they sort of officially anoint the stories that they think are prize winning. And it's interesting to note that the father of the president of this organization, the individual who personally struck the channel, his father, Roger Sharp, was at the Dallas police station. He was at Parkland Hospital and was one of the original voices to tell America that Lee Harvey Oswald shot and killed John F. Kennedy. And he has reported that story. He had an Emmy Award-winning career and went on to be a very successful newsman. We are to believe that his son is the second generation of a dynastic news empire, a family that is to be trusted, according to their statements. And it's very interesting, given the types of things that we talk about here, that this individual would strike out against the channel, claiming a copyright infringement that I'm currently battling. We'll have to see what happens. Ole, what do you think about this? I don't know if I've shared all those details with you.
No, but it's the way I've seen it, because I look in many different countries, not just one. And one thing that keeps repeating is reporters being awarded, like the big golden whatever, digging shovel, or the golden palm tree or something like that. That looks really good and gives credit, and often to their people. Because if you're up against like a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, right, who am I? I say stuff and he says stuff. Who will you believe? And I think this is one of the it's a way of deception. I mean, I'm not saying about all awards, of course not, but I'm saying that some of them, it's like Henry Kissinger and the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, right, come on. I mean, like, make my head explode. How is that even possible? One of the worst war criminals ever alive on this earth. And they award him, or they want to award him, the Peace Prize. And also Nobel. Who was he? Alfred Nobel. He was the inventor of explosive dynamite. And then so his invention is blowing up big parts of the world, and the money coming from the sales of these explosives is there to give a Peace Prize. I mean, wake me up, Alice in Wonderland. This is what I think about these prizes. I do not respect them at all, because I'm also up against these people, like in Sweden, and I've even met some of them, and I brought them information that should make them go, oh my God, this is such a big scope. I'm going to do it. Even if it's against all odds, I'm on it. No way. All of them have just backed off right away. They haven't even want to hear the information that I put forward. They haven't want to see any of the evidence. They said, no. And I said, but what's the problem? And this woman I'm talking about, who is an award-winning journalist, she said, if what you're saying is true, I have to write about it. And I was like, yeah, duh. And then she said, no, I can't, I don't want to listen anymore.
Wow.
And that describes a lot the way I see it.
That's cognitive dissonance in action. We're going to get into this and more in just about 4 minutes when we transition over to the sponsor-exclusive segment on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And today, in honor of our special guest, Beth Martens, people will also be able to see a simulcast later on Beth's Patreon channel, patreon.com/Beth Martens. So please join us there. Thanks to all the generous Patreon and Subscribe Star sponsors who make this show possible. It's more important than ever that you join us on the sponsor-exclusive platform. We've got multi-million-dollar organizations trying to bring this down. So we'll see everybody over there in just a few minutes. Thanks for watching.